Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. I hope you guys enjoy the next episode as much as I did in taping it. And the interviews with Drew Fuglsang of Outdoor Savage Company, and it's an internet e-commerce site. He sells a lot of apparel, logo merchandise. But even more than that, he loves to hunt whitetails, but I think he loves to hunt ducks even more. He hails from Georgia, and he does basically all his hunting along the Mississippi Flyway for ducks, and then in his local area for whitetails. And that's great, folks. And the outdoor life has treated him well. But when you hear his story, you're gonna kind of question yourself and check yourself out and ask yourself some hard questions. And Drew is upfront, personal, and all in of who he is, why he's where he is today, and the challenges he's overcome. That being said, Drew, I'm really excited you took the time to be on Whitetail Rendezvous. Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. We're heading down to rain-soaked, I believe it's Georgia, Kennesaw. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
And we're going to connect with Drew Fuglsang. And Drew runs Outdoor Savage. Well, he's co-owner, co-partner, co-founder. And Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it really is, and I'm glad. Shout out! Hey, let's just give a shout out to Kenny Maynard, a good friend of mine, and that you met a few weeks back, and he said to get on the show. So, hey, Kenny, props to you, man. So, what is Outdoor Savage? What's that all about?
So we started out as it's a brand, outdoor lifestyle brand, mostly doing apparel, shirts, hats, decals, things like that. Trying to grow the brand name. The idea is to grow it into a hunting outfitter. We're moving the business and everything to East Texas, which is where I'm originally from, next summer. And we're just trying to get a brand name going enough that we can, piggyback off it and do more things in the outdoor industry. Just because my partner and I both, it's our love, it's our passion, and it's, what we want to be a part of the rest of our life for sure.
And so help me understand. Now, are you a retail e-commerce type of platform, or what is it? What are you going to do with it, and how are you going to grow it?
So yeah, right now it's e-commerce. We're selling everything off our own website. We did a bunch of trade expos this past summer. We'll be doing them again next summer around the Southeast. We have talked to a few retail stores, but at the same time, we want to stay true to the outdoor industry. And I know a lot of times companies get, I guess you could say, absorbed into the whole, at least in the South, the whole fraternity college scene, and it kind of takes into that. And that's not what we want to be. We want to strictly be, for the outdoor industry. And yeah, I mean, we plan on doing more stuff apparel wise. We just came out with 5 new hats that we put on our website last week. We've got a couple new designs coming out. But for as long as the brand, the lifestyle brand is going to be pretty much strictly apparel, and then we'll branch off from that to do the other things.
So we're talking about T-shirts and hoodies and and button downs, or what kind of stuff would we find on your site?
Yeah, right now it's T-shirts, hats, long sleeves, some decals. We're working with some people right now for some. We're making a duck finisher right now. just yeah, all things apparel are in the spectrum of what we're gonna do. Right now, it's mostly just hats and shirts on our website, since we are new.
So it's the type of place that if somebody had a company, they could say, "Well, I need some private label stuff." Would you make them hats and shirts and hoodies and all that stuff?
We're able to do that
Okay.
with I guess who's doing like who we have doing our hats and shirts. We can do that stuff. I mean, we haven't had anybody reach out for us for anything like that, so we haven't had that come up yet. But it's definitely something we're able to do.
So why did you start this company? What was your thought behind that?
Well, so my business partner and I, we've been hunting together for about 5 years, and we're big duck hunters. I mean, we hunt everything, but we're big duck hunters, and we live in Georgia, so we spend a lot of time on the road driving west, and so we always talked about doing it. Um, we talked about we wanted to do something in the outdoor industry. Both of us are finance majors, and just kind of came to a conclusion like neither of us can sit in an office all day. Um, it's just not doesn't sound appealing at all to me. And so finally, about 6 months ago, we were like, let's stop talking about it. Let's just do it. You know, we always had the idea of the name Outdoor Savage, and we kind of threw it around to a bunch of people we knew that hunted and fished and those things, and asked them what they thought about the name. And everyone thought it was a hit. So we just kind of hit the ground running, not really knowing what we were doing or anything like that. I mean, I made all our first designs. Our first shirt we ran, and we took him to the University of Alabama because my business partner went. He was in a fraternity there, and we took him there to see, kind of get a reaction of what people thought, and we sold out of them that first day, and so that's kind of when we had the idea of like, all right, we might have something here. But I mean, it's a constant learning curve for us, because neither of us are very tech savvy. So I do have kind of a small art background, so I've been doing a lot of the designing. But we finally got on a graphic design artist who's got some good stuff coming out for us.
That's great. And again, how would people find you if they're interested in checking you out?
Our website is outdoorsavageco.com, and that's also Outdoor Savage CO is also our Instagram name, and then we're on Facebook as well. And all our social media accounts have links to our website on them.
All right. So where do you want that thing to go? I'm hearing that you're going to go to West Texas or East Texas.
East Texas.
No, are you going to move there?
Yes. So so actually so I grew up my most of my family is from the Midwest, farmers. A lot of my cousins run cattle and everything. And so we're actually in March buying a cattle farm out there for a little side business. And we're moving the whole business with it, and yeah.
You're not going to get away from the heat, that's for sure.
No, I mean, I've been in the heat my whole life. I lived in Colorado for 2 years. Otherwise, I've been in the South my whole life, so I'm kind of accustomed to the heat. I'm more of a baby in the cold. I'm not used to that as much.
I can hang the cold and the heat just kicks my butt.
Yeah. So
That's for sure. Talk to me about, people in the outdoors and in the warm up. You discussed that we wanted to have me bring that up for you. So why is that important to you?
I think I think a lot of it's dying in the sense of when I was young, I knew a lot of people that hunted outside of my family, and a lot of those people I know don't hunt anymore. They don't really have any, I guess, desire to keep it going. And for me, a lot of when I first moved to Georgia, well, when I first got on my own outside of when I got older into college and stuff, and I was joining hunting clubs, and it was all 40, 50, 60-year-old men in there, and I was this 20-year-old kid in there, and I was always the youngest guy. And I heard so many times from them, like, I can't get my kids to come out and hunt. And I think, at least I know in Georgia, hunting land is hard to come by, and it's very pricey because all the land's owned by the timber companies pretty much. And so it's hard for people to get places to hunt besides, public land, and Georgia does not have good public land. I know out west, and I know in Midwest, where my family's from in Iowa and stuff, the public land is really good hunting. To the point in Iowa, I know it's a lot of quota hunts, and in Georgia, it's not good. So just bringing people out that have never been. I mean, my partner and I took one of his buddies from high school last year for his first time, and he shot a doe, and I mean, he's been hooked, and I just think a lot of people don't get that opportunity in that aspect.
So we're sitting, and thousands of listeners going to hear this. What recommendation would you make to uncles, fathers, mothers, daughters, sons about how to get their best friend out into the outer doors?
Um, I mean, I know when I was young, with, like, my cousins and my dad and my uncle, like, they always made it fun. It was all about being fun, and kind of what we do with people is, at least for deer hunting, we tell them sit as long as, like, you feel like sitting. We don't ever tell somebody, like, you got to sit for this long if you're going to go into because I was in a club one time. They said, if you go in, you can't come out before 10:30. Well, for someone like me, I'm going to sit that long anyways. If not, I mean, when it gets colder, if not longer. But for somebody who's new to it, like, that sounds like an eternity, or, they get bored, they don't want to be there anymore. It becomes unfun for them. So I mean, I know for our buddy that we took last year, that was a big thing for him. Is he's like, I didn't feel pressure to stay if I didn't want to. I think that's a lot of what it is. Is it's something that a lot of people don't get hooked until they harvest. They don't understand what it all you're doing for it until you get that success, and until they get that, you, it's got to be fun in some way.
So keep it fun.
That's how it's always been for me. I mean, I have fun I mean, I could sit in a stand all day and have fun, but I like that. To me, sitting in a tree stand beats being in the suburbs any day. So
Or in the office or at work or wherever you want to call it.
exactly. So
Well, that's good. Now let's talk about your techniques. I know you're down south and it's hot, and how do you find those white-tailed deer, or for that matter, how far do you have to go away to duck hunt?
um, as far as whitetails, I mean, early season is hard hunting. So our season started for bow September 9th, I think it was. And I've sat probably 10 days so far, if not more, morning and afternoon. So probably 20 sits, and I've seen one deer. A lot of them, I keep jumping them going in the morning. So a lot of it is just waiting for some cool weather for us. But I mean, at the same time, some of the deer don't mind. This weekend we were running around the property during the day, and I mean, jumping deer left and right. And it was 88 degrees outside. So right now, what we're doing is acorns. I mean, all our oaks have been dropping acorns for the past couple weeks. Um, our persimmon trees are pretty much dried up, because we had that hurricane come through and it pretty much knocked them all down. So right now it's just I'm sitting in oak bottoms with acorns and water. This time of year usually it's the water sources that are big because it's so hot. And then for ducks, I mean, we have property in Mississippi. We hunt Louisiana a lot. We hunt Arkansas. I was down in Venice, Louisiana for early teal season, September 20th, the weekend of September 20th. I think it was about 95 degrees.
Oh my goodness.
The mosquitoes, I don't think I've ever witnessed such bad mosquito. My business partner had we counted 123 mosquito bites on his back that they were biting through his shirt.
Uh, now,
You
how
know,
far
so,
away is that? Some of those you went. Obviously, you're
so
in the Mississippi Flyway, so how far is that away from you?
Venice takes us 8 hours with pulling boats. We're usually got at least two trucks and two boats that we go with, but we used to hunt Gunnersville, Alabama, which is about 2 hours, but it just hasn't been producing too many hunters. I mean, duck hunting. I hunt all public. Besides in Mississippi, it's private land.
So no duck clubs.
No, I don't do it. I have a buddy who I just found out he's been doing it for the past few years in Arkansas, but I haven't because I've had enough success on public land that, and then we got access to 2,000 private acres in Mississippi right off the Mississippi River for this next year. So I put in a lot of time when it comes to networking and scouting and doing all that kind of stuff that I haven't had the need yet that I felt like I needed to pay thousands of dollars for that.
No, is there only any correlation between duck hunting and whitetail hunting?
I mean, in the sense of, I mean, you got to find the food source, you know. The big difference is the fact that I guess they're migrating, so you got new birds. So the second you feel like you learn the birds, they're almost gone, and then it's all over again. And that's something that really got me, I guess, hooked on duck hunting. It's like a never ending strategy game trying to figure them out. For whitetail, I mean, when you hunt the same property and you learn it, you run cameras for so long, you kind of get an idea of their highways, their where they're going for water, their food sources, all those things. You still got to be there the right time of the day to catch them, but it's for duck hunting, it's always changing.
Always new birds.
What? Yeah,
Always new
yeah.
birds. I remember I went to school in Wisconsin, hunted the Mississippi. So, we get the local birds. We start off with teal, then we get the local birds, and then as soon as the French went through, then we get the orange feet birds, the northern birds, out of
Hmm.
Canada. Oh, was that good shooting? Because they
Oh
they
yeah.
just they decoy. I mean, they just come flying in on the front end of the flight, and just boom, boom. Had
Yeah,
some great days on the river.
yeah, it's a lot harder for us in the south to get them decoying. Just they've seen so much. I hunt. My dad and his one of his buddies is in a club up in Michigan off Lake Erie, and I go up there and hunt with them every year. And the way the birds decoy up there, I mean, is what we dream of in the south. They've seen it all by the time they get to us.
Yeah, they have. But so how do you hunt them? You don't jump shoot them.
No, I mean we hunt them the same. We just try to switch things up. We don't run your classic J patterns, and it takes a lot. We run a lot more motion in our spreads than you're gonna. I mean, because when we're in Michigan, I don't. We maybe put out one mojo, spinning decoy. I mean, in the south, like down here, we're running two jerk lines, three mojos. I mean, some days they're flaring on the mojos, so we run out there and rip them all out of the ground. So it's just. I mean, we may switch up our spread 4 times before in a morning before we get them to start coming.
Amazing. If it had to work that hard for whitetails, I don't know if people would do it. And because you're working hard, for those ducks.
Yeah, and that's why I mean, most people think my crew is pretty crazy for what we do when it comes to hunting ducks, but that's why I think it's a small duck hunters is a smaller group. Not everybody likes to be out there wet and freezing and going through trucking through swamps just to shoot six ducks. So
True.
definitely different.
Well, let's change it up a little bit. I know you've got a backstory that we want to share because it's important to understand people to understand, listeners, and that we all want have stories. And I think yours is compelling because here you are. You got your own business, you're hunting ducks, you're hunting whitetails. Life isn't all that bad, and you're moving down, but it always wasn't that way, was it, Drew?
No. So I guess what supplementing into it is December December 12th, 2011 is when I got sober. I went to treatment for that was my third time going to rehab for heroin. Um, and it's one of those things. You know, when I moved to Georgia, I live so Kennesaw is right outside of Atlanta. I'm 25 minutes from the city. Um, and heroin is huge in Atlanta. It's a big problem, and like most of the country, it's an epidemic right now. But yeah, I mean, I just a lot of people think, I guess, heroin addicts had these traumatic childhoods, or they grew up in an orphanage or whatever. But like I grew up in the most leave it to beaver, like Midwest family there is. um I didn't have any of that. I played sports my whole life, all that. It was it all it I guess it all started out with pills and opiates. And my freshman year in college, when I was 18, I ruptured my lower disc in my back. um I had a doctor that didn't want to do surgery and prescribed me Oxycontin for almost a year.
Hmm.
And I had and I make a point to say, like it wasn't the doctor's fault by any means. Before that, I had done OxyContin. It was big at my high school. When I was in high school, it was recorded one of the highest drug usages for any public school in the country. And the high school I went to was in the richest zip code in the state of Georgia. I mean, there's a ton of money. Um, where I grew up, and I mean, when there's that kind of money and not anything to do, that's kind of what ends up happening. And so yeah, I got into that. I got cut off after the surgery, and it wasn't, and I was off at school down in South Georgia, and I ended up leaving school down there, came back to Atlanta, and a bunch of my friends up here were doing heroin, and that's kind of how that all started. And I struggled with that I got sober at 23. First time I did heroin, I think I was 20. So it was about 3 years of pretty much just pure insanity and misery, and something that I always say I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It's something that's a drug that gets very dark very quick. And at the time, right before I got sober, I was living out in Colorado, and one of my best friends, he had just got out of treatment, and I was, I guess this is like harder to say, but I was sitting on my couch in my apartment in Denver, just about made up my mind to commit suicide. Um, because I'd been to treatment, I didn't know if there was any way else to end the pain and the misery and everything that comes along with it. I thought like that. Essentially, at the time, I thought that was my only way out. And my phone rang. He called me and was like, "What are you doing? Come back to Atlanta and go to treatment." And I basically called my dad, got on a flight the next day, and flew back here and went to treatment. And that was December 12th, 2011. So, and then since then, I mean, and when I say sober, no alcohol, no drugs, no anything, no mind altering substances, as they say.
So, for the people out there, one that have kids, two, they're struggling right now with quote unquote an addiction. you can don't pick your own poison on that. But why do you think you get seduced into it or sucked into it?
Um, I mean, for me, it started out. So, like, the other thing to, I guess, say is I have my CAC. I'm a certified addiction counselor. And I did that for a little while. So, and I was a psychology major for a long time until I realized I do not want to. As much as I want to help people, I do not want to deal with people that are coming off hard drugs, because it's hard. It's very hard, and but a lot of it, I mean, essentially, at least the way the medical field describes it, you're born with it. You're born with that gene, and you hear a lot of people say, like, I have an addictive personality, um, and you can do that and never be quote unquote an addict because you've never, I guess, come across a substance. So be it, whatever you want to call it. But I know for me, it was a lot of it started out as boredom, as and trying to fit into a degree, because that's essentially what was cool at my high school, was the kids that, like at a lot of high schools, it's like the football players are the cool kids, or the basketball at my school it was the kids that partied every weekend were the cool kids. um, that was kind of the thing. When I was a junior in high school, MTV was going to do a documentary on my high school about how basically messed up it was. And so, like, that's kind of what I knew was what I thought was to be normal. When I went off to college is when I realized my high school was not normal by any means. And a lot of it, I would say the physical addiction part definitely came from being prescribed to the painkillers. I never felt withdrawals or anything like that until I had that prescription and would run out early. But I mean, it's one of those things. I dealt with a lot of parents. I did interventions for a while, and it's one of those things that I used to tell parents is like there really is no way to prevent it, but there is a way to fix it.
I like
And
that. I like that.
yeah, so like it's hard, and I've watched my own parents and family go through it, and I've watched friends' families go through it, and all those things, and it's hard, and it can destroy families, you know. But a big thing I always tell them, like you can't, as hard as it is, you can't blame the addict because it's like his brain is hijacked. Like nothing, you can't take anything they do as personal because that's not them. you know um but it's one of those things that's hard no matter what, and it's only becoming a bigger issue right now. I know, you get on Facebook nowadays, and it's like so many people died from heroin overdoses in this city and in this city, and I think it's finally starting to get the media attention that it needs for something to be done about it. Um, so I mean, that's it's just it's something that's very hard to deal with. It's hard. It's not easy by any means for anybody in the situation, but it is fixable.
Yeah, because here you are.
Yeah, and that's we're making I told you earlier, we're making a video about Outdoor Savage and our struggles with addiction, and because you don't hear success stories. A lot of people get sober and there's this kind of underlying thing in recovery that almost, and it's almost society's put it on that you should be ashamed of what you did type mindset. And my business partner and I are the opposite about that. We are more vocal than a lot of people about what we went through, and that's because you don't hear success stories, and that's why some of the guys have pressed us to push this video that we're making right now, because you don't hear the success stories, you just hear the bad stories.
Are you a huge rarity? One, I believe you
No,
are, just in what you're saying, but there's going to be thousands of people that hit rock bottom, call it what you want, and they work their way out, and they're unless they told you their story, you'd never know.
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's what is I think in this country alone there's like over a million. It's like somewhere in that number are members to a 12-step recovery based program. So I mean, it's a lot and it's big, and there's they have conferences for it. And a couple of years ago, it was in Atlanta, and there was 80,000 people in the Georgia Dome that were all sober. There was from 2 days sober to, I think there was a guy in there with 60 something years in recovery. So I mean, it's big. It's just a lot of people don't voice it and don't want to, I guess, wear it.
No, I've heard something, just heard something that once an addict, always an addict. Is that true, or is that really,
Yeah,
not true?
absolutely.
It is? Okay.
Absolutely. From a psychological standpoint, the disease of addiction is stored in the same part of your brain as eat, sleep, and drink. So once you're full swing addict, I mean, it's there. So, and that's why the people that have success with it, it's a 100% complete abstinence from anything, and that's why it's taught that way. And in my experience, that's the only way I've had success. The first time I went to treatment, I got out and I thought I could drink alcohol, and it wasn't. I think 4 hours after I drank alcohol, I was back doing the same thing. So in my case, I believe it is. I mean, it's a thing that there's a lot of opinions and there's a lot of personal beliefs when it comes to it. But I know for me, it's true, and all of my friends would say it's true as well.
Hmm.
But just because once an addict, always an addict, doesn't mean you act like a drug addict or you act like an alcoholic. Like you can recover from the addiction, but that doesn't mean that you can't go back there.
Yeah, it's lurking. Based on what you said,
Ex-
it's always lurking. And just if you screw up, man, it's going to spring the trap again. You're going to go into dark places and have to work your way back out. That's what I heard you just saying.
yeah, and there's a big saying like in the 12-step meetings, like in the rooms, it's that people say, while I'm in here doing this, my disease is outside doing push-ups, just getting stronger. So the second I feed it, it's off to the races. So I mean, that's something that's why I say yes, it is. Once an addict, always an addict.
Hmm, interesting. Well, this has been interesting. I mean, I knew where this was going. I knew the questions I was going to ask. But like I said before, as an older gentleman, I'm really proud of you for deciding, no, I'm not going to do what you were thinking doing in Colorado. But then a friend reached out, and here you are. I mean, with a lot of opportunity in front of you, running a little cattle, you get a little company, and you're shooting ducks and maybe a whitetail. And are you married?
No, no, I don't know. I don't have anything in that field. I would stay away from it so that I can get my, because I know that'll put a damper on my dreams.
That's what I was gonna say. Okay, he's not married. That's how the heck he's driving 8 hours to go duck hunting.
That's usually when people hear what I do, they're like, "You can't be married." I'm like, "Nope."
Well, I had to ask.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'd
That's
never be able to live the life I live.
that's classic. What do you do for work?
So I am a supervisor for a valet company in Atlanta. I'm also finishing my finance degree. So on top of all the hunting, I work 40 hours a week. I take 15 hours of school, and I run Outdoor Savage. So I don't have a whole lot of free time besides on the weekends.
Well, you can eat. You're gonna need to eat and sleep, right?
Yeah, that plays a part in there sometimes.
Oh, Drew, this has really been fun. I've enjoyed the heck out of it, and it's so um, enlightening, heartening, all those adjectives. To meet a guy like yourself and said, "Hey, this is where it is. This is where we're at." So, listeners, you can beat whatever you're fighting. And we know right now there's guys and gals out there that, maybe are drinking too much, maybe are using illegal drugs or have pharmaceuticals that, that they don't need the pharmaceuticals, but they're using the pharmaceuticals as their drug de jour. And, just listen to this and think about Drew and think about what he overcame, and you can do it too, because we're all not a bag of chips and something else. We're just people. And I'm happy to have Drew on and share some things about Outdoor Savage, share some things about getting people in the outdoors, and sharing his story, because so many times we miss it. We're talking all about this and that and this and that about whitetail hunting, but this is real life. And so thanks to my friend Kenny Maynard for getting us together.
Absolutely.
Hey, folks, we're heading out to Nebraska today, and we're going to meet up with Eric Dinger. Now, Eric is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Powder Hook. What's all about Powder Hook? Well, a lot of us are looking for a place to hunt in various states. A lot of us want to go fishing in various states. And a lot of us want to find out how I can build a community online with people with like-minded that are going to give me some insights to where I want to hunt and fish. Well, throw that all together, and Eric Dinger has put that together in a digital format and an app called Powder Hook. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.